Imagine standing in front of your closet right before a massive career-defining presentation.
Oh, that is definitely a high-stress moment.
Right. You bypass the weekend wear, you skip the vacation gear, and you pull out that one totally reliable, perfectly tailored suit.
The one that just fits flawlessly.
Exactly, because it tells the room exactly who you are, permanently and definitively.
I mean, it's basically a visual shorthand. It's a stable identity that lets people categorize you immediately, which is, incredibly comforting in a really high-stakes corporate environment.
Yeah, but we all know the business world runs on more than just, like, good tailoring. You are actually wearing another uniform every single day.
A completely invisible one.
Yes, one constructed entirely out of English grammar, and we rarely realize how weaponizing that grammar, specifically your verb tenses, can be the absolute difference between commanding a room and, while accidentally signaling that you have no idea what you're doing.
The stakes are actually remarkably high. So welcome to today's deep dive. My goal today is to help synthesize these language rules into some really practical business strategies for you.
And today, we are cracking the code on how English grammar silently shapes your professional identity. We are looking at a stack of business English training materials, some case studies, and advanced grammar guides.
Specifically, we're focusing on Unit 1, which covers professional identity and daily duties.
Which I know sounds like a dry grammar lesson right off the bat, but it is actually a masterclass in networking and managing expectations. By the end of this deep dive, you will understand why the difference between saying I do and I am doing can completely change how a colleague or a client perceives your competence.
It really draws a clear boundary around your professional status. The materials lay out this fundamental rule, which is that in a professional setting, we use the present simple to describe permanent situations, job titles, and regular habits. But conversely, we use the present continuous to emphasize that a business situation is temporary, or to discuss projects happening specifically around the present moment.
I mean, we all know the basic mechanics, right? Present simple is I do, and present continuous is I am doing.
Right, exactly.
Well, let's unpack this a little. I've always thought of present simple as that tailored suit we mentioned. It's your core professional identity. Like, I work for a global software company.
That establishes your baseline.
Yeah, but the present continuous feels more like strapping on a temporary construction hard hat. So you'd say, this month I am managing a temporary project for a new client.
That is a perfect analogy. The grammar you choose actively signals to your listener how stable your role is. In fact, the sources use this really humorous, extreme example to illustrate the point.
Oh, the Broadway one. Right.
Yeah, exactly. The training material says, the finance director usually handles the budget, but today he is appearing in a musical as part of a charity event.
Which is so funny because if you use present simple for both, if you said he handles the budget and appears in musicals, you're telling me his career is just this permanent 50-50 split between corporate finance and Broadway.
Right, and the danger there is that your listener completely loses the thread of your actual expertise.
Oh, wow.
By shifting to the present continuous for the musical, the grammar actively protects his core identity as a finance director. It kind of quarantines the temporary activity so it doesn't infect his professional reputation.
You know, I actually ran into this exact issue a few years ago. I was at a conference, and a colleague introduced me to someone by saying, this is my friend, they write scripts, and they're organizing the catering for our after party.
Oh, no. I can see where this is going.
Yes, because they use the same grammatical framing for both tasks, the person I was talking to spent the next 20 minutes asking me about wholesale avocado prices.
That is hilarious, but also terrible.
I couldn't steer the conversation back to media production at all. My professional identity had been completely hijacked by the catering detail, but I do want to push back on this a little bit. What if your job constantly changes? Like, when does a temporary project become a permanent reality?
Well, that's where the nuances come in. And just when you think you know the rules, English throws a curveball. The materials talk about state versus action verbs.
Right. Action verbs like build or manage take the continuous form super easily.
Exactly. But state verbs, words like believe, own, or consist of, they resist it. They describe a permanent state of being. You wouldn't really say, I am owning this laptop.
No, that sounds incredibly clunky.
It does. But the materials highlight a strategic exception, which is mental state verbs.
Oh, words like think or realize.
Precisely. Taking a static word and forcing it into the continuous form, like saying, I am currently considering a new way to organize our warehouse, it feels like a very deliberate psychological play.
Wait, really? How so?
Well, it's about projecting agility. In a business context, if you say, I think we should change the warehouse, it sounds like a fixed, entrenched opinion.
Ah, I see.
But when you say, I am thinking or I am realizing, you are signaling to your boss or your client that your brain is actively processing new information in real time. It shows you're flexible, not stubborn.
I love that. It's a dynamic posture. And speaking of specific verb categories, the section on performatives reveals this whole other layer of workplace psychology.
Performatives are fascinating.
Yeah, these are the magic words. Performative verbs are those where the act of saying the word is the action itself. Like, I suggest, we request, I apologize.
And the rule here is very strict. Performatives demand the present simple.
Here's where it gets really interesting to me, because I was trying to figure out why saying, I am apologizing for the delay sounds so incredibly insincere.
It does sound off, doesn't it?
Yeah. If the continuous tense implies an action is happening right now, shouldn't I am apologizing sound more present and active?
You would definitely think so. But the psychology works in reverse. The continuous tense implies a temporary state that has a beginning, a middle, and an end.
Oh, okay.
So using it for an apology turns the apology into a process you are describing, rather than a commitment you are actually making. I apologize is a direct action. I'm apologizing is just you narrating your own behavior. It creates this weird psychological distance that clients pick up on immediately.
Wow, that makes so much sense. And, writing an email gives you the luxury of crafting that psychological distance or closing it deliberately.
Which brings us nicely to the case study in the materials.
Yes, they include a memo from a human resources manager named Fabienne Messier, and it perfectly weaponizes everything we've been talking about.
She's writing to a regional sales team during a really messy transition period.
She establishes her baseline immediately. She says she usually manages recruitment from Karis, present simple. Then she pivots.
Right, she puts on the hard hat.
Exactly. She says for the time being, she is working on-site in the Warsaw sales office to help the team while they are learning the ropes of a new computer system.
Notice how she pairs the continuous tense with that specific idiom, learning the ropes.
Oh, the idioms caught my eye too. The memo is sprinkled with them. She uses go-to, run-of-the-mill, thinking outside the box. It adds so much flavor to the formal grammar.
It really softens the corporate speak.
It does. But looking at the core strategy here, Fabienne's dealing with a team that's incredibly frustrated because the old software consists of too many manual steps. By the way, consists of, that's a state verb.
Good catch, eh?
And then she writes that the IT tech is currently installing an update. She didn't just write the IT tech updates the system.
And there is a very good reason for that. She deliberately chose the continuous form to put an expiration date on the team's anxiety.
Because organizational change creates massive panic.
Exactly. If she says the IT tech updates the system, she risks signaling that this chaotic disruption is just a permanent feature of their jobs now.
So by framing her visit to Warsaw and the software installation as continuous and temporary, she's basically functioning as an emotional stabilizer for the entire regional office.
That's a great way to put it.
She's telling them the core structure of the company is stable. We're just wearing hard hats for a few days.
It's also really revealing how she handles the other project in Warsaw. They are meeting a go-to marketing assistant to design a new company logo.
Right.
She writes that they normally prefer conservative designs. Prefer is a state verb which establishes the permanent corporate brand. But then she says they are thinking outside the box for this project so the products don't look run-of-the-mill.
I love that. She uses the continuous mental state verb, are thinking, to give her team permission to be temporarily creative without permanently abandoning the company's conservative identity. It's a highly calibrated message.
It really is.
But, a memo gives you a safety net. You can draft it, you can read it out loud, and you can adjust the verbs before you hit send. How does this play out when you're caught completely off guard, say, standing in a hotel lobby with a stranger?
That is the real test. Spoken communication strips away that safety net completely. We see this in the networking transcript simulation from the sources.
Right. The setting is a networking event at a global energy conference. We have Matt, an IT technician from the London office. He just got in last night, and he's super jet-lagged.
And he meets Todd, who introduces himself as a sales representative from Petrobras.
Matt asks Todd the classic, sometimes dreaded networking question, what do you do exactly?
And Todd's response is where the grammar does the heavy lifting. Todd says, I normally sell oil and gas products to retail companies, but this week I am showing some visitors around the local scene as part of our hospitality program.
I was looking at Todd's response, and I initially wondered, why didn't he just say, I'm a tour guide for Petrobras this week? It seems so much faster than layering the normally sell on top of the am showing.
What's fascinating here is how fiercely Matt, or rather Todd, uses grammar to protect his professional identity.
Right.
If Todd just said, I show visitors around, Matt would instantly categorize him as logistics or hospitality staff. In the corporate hierarchy of a global energy conference, Matt, as an IT technician, might not view a tour guide as an equal player.
Ah, so Todd starts with, I normally sell, to establish his equal footing. He's a serious sales rep.
Exactly. And by following up with I am showing, he uses the present continuous to clearly state, I am a serious oil and gas salesman who is just temporarily holding a clipboard.
Wow.
He protects his status while accurately reporting what he's physically doing that day.
It's a really subtle status play, and Tide actually doubles down on it when Matt says showing people around must be a load off your shoulders compared to sales calls.
Todd agrees, but then he deploys a continuous mental state shift. He says, as a matter of fact, it is. But I am now realizing how much organization it takes.
Right. He doesn't say, I realize. He says, I am realizing. It proves his brain is still engaged even while he's doing hospitality work.
It's incredible.
It is fascinating how much professional self-preservation is packed into a 2-minute lobby conversation. And Matt does the exact same thing right after. He mentions he is only staying a couple of days to help connect the new projectors, and then he goes back to his regular desk.
Both men are actively defending their professional uniforms while acknowledging the temporary hard hats they happen to be wearing for the conference.
So true. But, networking is a low-stakes game compared to what happens when real money is on the line. The final scenario the materials walk through is a high-friction office crisis.
This is where it gets intense.
Yeah, it shows how grammar can literally save your job when people are actively looking for a scapegoat.
The setup here is a role-play scenario. Person A is an HR manager. Person B is an office assistant who is temporarily covering for the finance director who is out of the office.
And the crisis is that a total disaster occurred with the morning payroll. It is late.
And, as we all know, people do not mess around when it comes to their paychecks.
Oh, absolutely not. The HR manager storms in, demanding to know what the assistant is doing to handle the situation and when payroll will be in good shape.
So the assistant is really backed into a corner here. They have to explain why they haven't fixed the problem yet without looking completely incompetent.
So what do they say?
Their response is, I normally work as an assistant, but today I am learning the ropes of the director's job. The system appears to be broken.
Okay, the materials provide some really great diplomatic phrases you can deploy here, like, I can assure you that, or basically, I may, or it's just that.
Yeah, are you up for? Is another good one.
Right. But the actual grammatical defense here is basically verbal aikido. So what does this all mean for the assistant?
Well, the assistant brilliantly uses the present continuous, saying, I'm learning the ropes, to buy patience. It actively frames their lack of immediate answers as a temporary byproduct of the situation rather than a permanent flaw in their capabilities.
I see.
They are explicitly telling HR, my incompetence has an expiration date.
Don't yell at me, I'm just wearing the hard hat.
Exactly.
But the second half of that sentence is what I find truly brilliant. They use a present simple state verb. They say, the system appears to be broken.
They could have said, I broke the system, or the system is breaking. But by choosing a state verb, they subtly shift the blame entirely.
They remove their own agency. They're telling the HR manager, I'm a temporary visitor in this role, but this software is permanently flawed.
It redirects the HR manager's momentum away from the temporary actions of the assistant and toward an inanimate object.
It works entirely because the grammar inherently carries those connotations of permanence versus temporality.
It really is incredible how these foundational rules, present simple versus present continuous, turn out to be the invisible architecture of workplace psychology.
They anchor your core identity when you need to project stability, and they provide the necessary flexibility to navigate awkward networking mix-ups or, survive high-stress payroll crises.
So, to our listener, the next time you are at a conference or you're writing an update memo to an anxious team, take a second to consciously choose your verbs.
Yes, ask yourself, are you describing your permanent uniform or are you describing a temporary hat? That choice dictates how much authority you command in the room.
It's a very practical tool you can use every single day.
I do want to leave you with a final kind of provocative thought to mull over.
Oh, I like these.
We've anchored this whole discussion on the present simple being this rock-solid foundation of our careers. I work, I manage, I sell, but if you look at the modern landscape, we are living in an exploding gig economy.
That is very true. The traditional 40-year career at a single company is becoming increasingly rare.
Right. Which makes me wonder if the very concept of a permanent present simple job is actually disappearing.
That's a fascinating point.
If our careers are becoming this continuous string of freelance contracts, side hustles, and temporary pivots, might the present continuous soon become the standard way we all define our professional identities?
Wow. Will the professional closet of the future just be a collection of different temporary hard hats?
Exactly. It is definitely something to consider the next time a stranger hands you a lukewarm coffee at a conference and asks, "So, what do you do?"